guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you are notified of all of my new videos. My name is Heather. I am the owner and author behind townsendhouse.com, where I help you implement systems and strategies in order to overcome the chaos and cultivate simplicity in your home and homeschool. Today, I am really excited to be sharing with you my spring refresh from the Power Sheets. If you don't know about the Power Sheets, it is a goal planner that is done by Laura Casey and Cultivate What Matters, and it really just helps you hone in on what is most important to you, what you want to work on, and helping you make that little by little progress so that you can achieve your goals. So the thing that I really love the most about the Power Sheets is, well, there's a couple of things, but one of the things is the seasonal refresh that the Power Sheets, the yearly Power Sheets gives you. So each season, there is an opportunity for you to revisit your goals and your why and what you want to work on in the quarter ahead. And so that's what we're going to go through today. This first quarter was really good for me. I focused a lot on homeschooling. When I'm filming this, we are in technically our last week of homeschool for the school year. We do school year round, which I mention, I think, in every single video, but and so we will continue to do some schoolish things, but my kids really consider finishing their math curriculum for the year as their finish point because a lot of our learning is interest-led. So this last quarter, January through March, I have focused mainly on homeschooling and getting into a better rhythm. If you've listened to any of my previous goal videos, you will know that homeschool has been really good this year, but it has also been very challenging. And I haven't felt like I've been in a good rhythm really since last March. It's been a crazy year. I know it has been for everybody. And yeah, so I really spent most of this first quarter focusing on our homeschool rhythm and just getting into a better situation as to what we are doing each day. This is the first year that I've really had 3 kids in different levels. Lucy has done pre-K and kindergarten in the past, but this is her first official year of homeschool where I have to report to the state, etc. So it was a little challenging, and especially with a youngest who is 6, who is not entirely ready for a lot of sit-down learning and wants to still be able to play with her big brother and big sister all the time, who actually have a lot more school to get done. So it was a challenge, but this quarter I was really able to focus on homeschooling, and that made me feel a lot better. So I'm going to start going through the questions that the Power Sheets gives you for the spring refresh, and I will share with you what I have done. So this first page is really just the life evaluation check-in. Now, at the beginning of the Power Sheets, you did have the opportunity to go through all of these areas of your life and sort of give yourself a grade based on how you think you're doing in that area. And so the different areas are health, spouse or focal relationship, friends, family, finances, work, spiritual and personal growth, and recreation. And so what you do is you just sort of go through and you grade yourself, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, on how you think you're doing in that particular area, and jot down a few notes as to places that you're excelling at and places that you maybe want to work on a little bit more. And so when I went through this, most of my grades for these different areas were quite good. I felt really good this quarter, and I don't know if it was just because we were back into a good homeschool rhythm and I felt good about myself that way, or if I really just accomplished a lot. I did accomplish a lot in this first quarter. It was really surprising, actually, because I wasn't sure how I would do. But I'm feeling really good about most of the areas. So that made me happy. Now, I do not have a goal for each of these areas. Some of my goals combine some of the areas, and some of them are just not even a priority for me. But I think this is a good overall evaluation of where your entire life is in general. And I think that it's great to sort of focus on these different areas, especially if you're struggling, trying to figure out where you want to work, what goals you want to work on first. If you see that health is at a 2, well, you know that maybe that might be a place that you want to spend a little bit more time. So it's a good refresher that way, just to check in and see how you are doing. And this next page is different in each of the seasonal refreshes. This first one is try this at home. It has a try this at home section, wish you had an extra 24 hours in the week, and talking about how there are 168 hours each week that you get to do with as you choose. Even when you're floating through life and you don't actively feel like you're making choices, you're making the choice to sort of float through life that way. And it gives you information on how to do a time inventory. And this is something that I have talked about a lot in my Creating Margin workshop. Just on how to figure out where you're using your time, how to best prioritize the time that you have, and having the opportunity to say yes and no based on the time commitments that you already have and the amount of margin that you have in your week. Now, several years ago, when I first did a time inventory, it was partly because I was super overwhelmed with everything. I had just, I think I had just found out I was pregnant with Lucy, and life was just chaotic. Emma and Jack were, 5 and 3 at that point, and we had a lot going on, and I was tired. Which I think that everybody can relate to. So I spent a lot of time making a yes and no list at that point. And I became really, really good at saying no. I default to saying no now. And that is something that I actually have to work on, because I had originally, for a very long time, just said yes to everything and dealt with any issues on my end. If I didn't actually want to do something, I still did it, because I felt bad if I didn't. And so when I went through my first time inventory, I realized that I had way too much stuff going on in my life and my family's life, and it was causing more chaos in our home and not being as helpful as I thought I was being. So I default now to saying no, which is why I only have like 2 things on my no list. And I have a lot of things on my yes list, because I need to actively choose to say yes to things. Otherwise, I default to no. So some of the things that I'm saying yes to this quarter are de-owning. This is something that I've talked about a couple of times. Decluttering is the act of getting rid of things from your home, but oftentimes when we declutter, we end up bringing new stuff into our home, or we make room for new stuff, and that's why we're decluttering. So I want to practice de-owning. I did a pretty good job of this when we were in our old home. We had no closets, and so I didn't have space to put things, so everything that we had to be out. Now that we're in our new home, we moved here last year, I do need to go through things again. Not because we've brought a lot of stuff in, but just because my kids are changing ages, and so we need to go through some old toys, things that my older 2 are no longer using. I did recently just go through all of the kids' clothes, which was a very large task, to try and get rid of what we didn't need, find stuff that we could donate, and then put away stuff for Lucy for when she is older and can wear those clothes. So de-owning is mainly figuring out what you do not need to have in your home, and then just getting rid of it. And I also put underneath de-owning ruthless decluttering, because sometimes I tend to err on the side of caution. We may need this in the future, and I think the reason that I behave that way is because oftentimes when I do go through and get rid of a lot of stuff, a week later I will say, oh great, I really need this item, and now I've given it away, and I am less likely to go out and purchase the new item, and then I just get frustrated. So I need to go through and declutter, but I need to be aware of what I'm decluttering. And because we do have a little bit more space, I am considering packing up some of the stuff that we don't necessarily use all of the time that I think we may need to use, and putting it just in a tub in the basement, one of those clear plastic bins, and then seeing how it goes. If it's something that we end up using in 3 months, then I will keep it, obviously. But if it's something that I don't touch for a year, I think that's a pretty good time because we have 4 distinct seasons in Maine. Then I can let it go and get rid of it, knowing that it's not something that we really need in our lives. So that's good. Another thing I'm saying yes to is organization. I do love to organize, so it's not hard for me to say yes to it. But because my main focus in the first quarter was on homeschooling, I did not spend a lot of time organizing. I just kind of prioritized our homeschool and just kept moving forward with that. I didn't feel like I could spare the time to sit down and organize stuff. I did not go through my homeschool room. I want to reorganize that. The kids take books off the shelves and get out different supplies, and it does need to be reorganized. It's tidy, but it's not as easy to find everything that I need. Sometimes the kids put books back on different shelves, and so I do need to just go through and reorganize that stuff. But I did not allow myself any extra time to do that in the first quarter because my focus was on homeschooling and some awesome adulting, taxes, fun stuff. So I'm also going to be saying yes to family fun. I try to say yes to family fun. You know, it's been such a weird year where we're not able to do a whole lot of things. So just trying to find different activities that we are able to do within the restrictions that we have currently. It can be a challenge. Luckily, in the first quarter, we had some great snow. The kids went outside pretty much every day. There was only a couple of weeks where it was bitterly cold, and they don't go out if it's, below 0. It's too cold. Even if they have the equipment, it's just not fun. So, saying yes to family fun is something that is on my yes list. I need to prioritize putting a few weekends on the calendar where we're just doing fun family stuff, whether it's having a movie weekend or going on a hike or going somewhere to do something outside. It's something that I need to schedule. I need to put on the calendar so that I make sure that we do it. Otherwise, what happens is on the weekends, it's the only time that I have another adult around with my husband being home on the weekends. And so I tend to make my weekends work heavy, and it is the time that I use to do all of the things, because during the week, my full-time job is homeschooling. And so, yeah, it's nice on the weekends to have another adult to bounce everything off of. Anyways, so family fun is on my list. Reading is on my list. Reading is something that I have been doing every day this year outside of our homeschool. We do a literature-based homeschool curriculum, so we do a ton of reading anyways, just in our day-to-day. But I made it a goal this year to read every day for enjoyment, not just for personal growth. In the past 5, 6, 7 years, I have focused a lot on nonfiction, which I love. I love memoirs. I love productivity books. I love personality profiling, all of those types of things to better myself. But I wanted to start reading more fiction. I needed to be able to let myself just get lost in a story, which I haven't really been doing. All the books that I read for the kids, I really enjoy, but I wanted to read some fiction for myself. And so I have been doing that every day, and I love it. I've missed reading for pleasure. So that is also on my yes list. Another thing I'm saying yes to are movie days with the kids. My kids are getting, well, my older two are getting older, and so I'm able to share some of my favorite movies with them, and just going through and having movie marathon. Not really, we only watch, one movie in a day. It's not several movies, although that might be fun too. But we've gone through and we watched like all of the Star Wars movies. I'd never seen them, so we went through and watched them all. And X-Men, I like, fantasy. Harry Potter we watched again. All of the Avengers movies. We've been focusing on going through all of the series of movies, and then I watched all the 80s movies like Flight of the Navigator and Back to the Future, all of those fun things. So I want to continue doing that. It's something that my kids are really enjoying, going through all of the movies that I loved growing up. Mighty Ducks, definitely watch that one. Anyways, so I want to continue doing that. Sometimes it's easy for me to say no and just kick everybody outside, which we do a lot of as well, but being able to sit down on the weekend and just watch a movie all together, super fun. I want to do more of that. Homeschool planning. This is a big one because we're in our last technical week of school. I am starting to plan for the 2021-2022 homeschool year. Last year I didn't feel like I spent enough time planning, and part of that was everything that was going on in the world. Part of that was because I had shingles, and then the kids had chickenpox right up until July last year. And so because we're year-round homeschoolers, we usually start in July, and I usually take a week in June when the kids are at VBS to really plan out the first few months of school. I didn't have that time this year, and I wasn't feeling well enough to plan well. So that was a real big struggle for me this year. And you would think after having an additional 6 months of school, July to December, I would have really got my act together, but I didn't until January. It was just a weird year. Usually my oldest is in band 3 times a week, and she did not have band this year. She only had like an online lesson once a week, and so we had a lot of time. So we were never behind in school, but because we had just so much time to do stuff. But I didn't feel like we used our time as well as we could have. And I mean, I'm happy with how everything went, and that the kids excelled this year, and their attitudes were better. And I don't know if that was because we weren't constantly on the go, or if it was they just felt more relaxed and knew what was expected. But I do need to focus on homeschool planning. I'm excited that the new teacher planner from Erin Condren is going to be coming out April 8th for EC Insiders, and then the 9th for everybody else. And I will have a full review for you on the 8th, so that you can see all of the changes that there are. There's a lot of options this year. I will leave a link in the description box so that you can sign up if you're not an EC Insider. They send you emails for getting early access to the new planners, and this is the first planner of the 2021-2022 year to be released, and then the life planner will come out, I'm not sure when actually. Maybe the end of April? I haven't heard anything. So, but I think that was when it came out last year. So I'm excited about getting that so that I can start planning my new year. I don't really do a whole lot before I get my teacher planner. I do start to make a couple of lists on things that I know that I need, or curriculum that I'm absolutely going to purchase. I usually do get the next level from Sunlight. That is our main curriculum that we use. This past year, Emma did level 100 American history, and it was amazing. And next year, I think we are going to be doing J, which is a history of science, and I'm planning on combining Emma and Jack for that. So we'll see how it goes. I have some ideas. I need to write them down, but homeschool planning is another thing that is on my yes list. I have to do it. And in the second quarter of the year, the kids do still do homeschooling, but it is mainly interest-led. They focus on books. They get to choose their books because they've pretty much read all of the books that I had assigned for the year. And then also writing, they get to choose their own writing projects. Jack loves writing movie scripts, and Emma is writing a play. She read through all of the Jane Austen books this year, so she's really interested in that. I think it's Victorian time period. And so she is designing costumes and hairstyles and stuff like that for a play that she wants to do, that she's going to write at some point, I guess. Yeah. I talk a lot. Sorry. This is going to be a wordy spring refresh. I'm also saying yes to brain dumps. This is not something that I have really done this past quarter. When I did all of my goal setting for 2021, I did do a huge brain dump. Going through all of the prep work for the power sheets helps me to go through and figure out all of the things that I want to do in the coming year. I haven't sat down to brain dump really at all, because I've been very focused on my action steps for homeschooling for the past 3 months. And so I feel like I might need some time to just sort of brain dump seasonally, or monthly maybe, of just things that I want to do, and, you know, write it all down and then be able to cross it off when I have time to get to it. And then the last thing I'm saying yes to this quarter are my planning days. I try to do a planning day once a month. The last Thursday of the month is usually when I do it, the fourth Thursday usually. So on 5-week months, I do it a little bit early. But a planning day for me is where I sit down and I write out all of the things for the month ahead, for our family calendar, for my personal calendar. I take note of any appointments that the kids have, or that Matt or I have, or the dog, and just sort of get everything straight. I think about birthdays that are coming up. I do all of my goal planning for the month ahead in my power sheets. I look ahead for the month for homeschooling. It does not take me a full day. I don't take a full day for planning, but it is something that helps keep my head on straight and really helps me to dive deep and see what I need to get done. And I definitely recommend it. I used to do it on the weekends, but then I started to incorporate it into my week, and I do a lighter day of school for the kids. Mainly, it's not parent intensive that day. It's more kid interest led. You know, I'll put on a documentary, or we'll do a lot of art. Any school that I do with Lucy usually only takes me about an hour in the morning anyways, so that's my main focus. Emma and Jack are pretty self-directed at this point, which is helpful. If they do have questions, obviously I am here, but they know what is expected of them, and it is just a little bit lighter during the second quarter because their math is pretty much done, and that's usually where they have most of their questions. So what I'm saying no to this quarter is stress. That's my number one thing. I tend to get stressed easily, but I try, if I write things down, I'm not as stressed. And so that's part of why I need to say yes to the brain dumps, because when I keep everything moving around in my head and I don't write it down, it stresses me out more because I'm constantly thinking about it. I don't know, I've trained myself so when I write it down, I don't think about it as much, and then I can just sort of follow whatever I've written down to do the next thing. It takes a lot of decision fatigue out of my life, which is necessary. It is. And then the other thing is spending. I'm trying to not spend on things that we don't really need at the moment. I don't spend a lot of money in general. I'm not a big spender except on like homeschool stuff, but I'm trying to pare back on some of the extra things that I will purchase just to have on hand. And that means like extra things for food. I'm trying to do more food prep so that we're not getting takeout on the days that I'm too lazy to make food. So if I make a bunch of food at the beginning of the week and I have it in the refrigerator, it's a lot easier for me to throw together meals than if I wait until the day of and say, what's in the freezer? Oops, I didn't defrost anything. And I don't have an Instant Pot, so there are no Instant Pot meals for me. So spending on frivolous things, I'm trying to, save as much money as we can right now. We do have a lot of stuff that we need to buy in the spring, including homeschool curriculum and some outside stuff for the house and the garden. So saving on everything else is important. The next section is this keep moving forward section. And the first question, what goal do you feel stuck on? And for me, it is number one, streamlining Townsend House. I have this list of tasks that I've had for several years. Has it been several years? Yep, I think it has. Things like going through my old blog posts and pictures and just updating those or deleting and redirecting to different blog posts. This year marks 10 years of blogging at Townsend House for me, and I have, I think, over 1,500 blog posts. So it's a lot of information to go through, and because when I look at that number of 1,500 plus, I think, oh, that's way too much. It's similar to going through pictures. It's like you have thousands and thousands of digital pictures. Half of them are of my kids' feet. So, you should be able to just go through and delete them. But what happens is you look at the entire big picture and then it's overwhelming. So I have not prioritized time for going through those blog posts and pictures and just doing back end cleanup that I need to do. It's nothing that really affects Townsend House as a whole. Things are pretty, still easy to find and look okay on the front end, but it is just a mess on the back end that I need to deal with. And I haven't prioritized the time for that. And then the other thing that I have felt a little bit stuck on is organizing and decluttering the house. And that's mainly because I, again, have not dedicated time for that. I haven't felt like I could dedicate the time because of the homeschooling and just trying to finish our homeschool year strong. So because I didn't feel well prepared for this homeschool year, I really leaned into creating a good rhythm for us for the first quarter, the last 3 months, so that we could finish our homeschool year strong and just get into a good rhythm so my kids knew what to expect and when they should have things done, etc. So I have not dedicated time for streamlining Townsend House or organizing and decluttering our home. Those are focuses that I will have for the second quarter. What is holding you back from moving forward? Homeschooling has taken priority, and that is okay. It just means that this first quarter wasn't the time for me to deal with those things. And even though I really wanted to work on them, I knew that I couldn't dedicate the time needed for it. So you have to let that go. If you are in a season where you can't work on something specific, that's okay. Just think about how you're going to move ahead and work on it in another season. So that's what I'm talking about. What would have to change for you to move forward on this goals? So I need to adjust my time blocking. I work with time blocks. So when I talked about the 168 hours, in my Creating Margin workshop, I go through time blocking and how I use different time blocks for different areas of my life. So I have an early morning time block before my kids get up, and that is usually when I work and when I have my quiet time morning routine. And then we have our anchor is breakfast, and then after breakfast we have a large block for homeschooling, which is usually 9 to noon or 9 to 1. And then we have lunch, and then I have an afternoon block, an early afternoon where my kids are having quiet time or playtime outside. And then we have an afternoon block, a later afternoon block where my oldest usually works on some homeschool stuff, or she and I will work together on homeschool stuff, and Jack and Lucy will play. And during that later afternoon time and the early afternoon time, I'm also doing other work, partly for Townsend House, partly just home cleanup stuff, preparing food, etc. So I have my schedule in blocks of time, and so I need to readjust over this next quarter so that I can plug in specific time for working on my back end stuff with Townsend House, and then also the home decluttering project that I have for this quarter. And I think part of the issue is this past quarter, I really did not wake up early. Which is fine. My kids have been sleeping in, so I've been sleeping in a little bit. I think I talked about this in my March goals video. I used to get up at 4 o'clock every day. It was just when my body would wake up 4:30. And I would spend, 4 or 5 hours of time just working on my blog, on video editing, on writing, that kind of stuff. And I haven't been getting up that early this past quarter. So I've really only been maintaining my morning routine, which is coffee and emails and checking in with my Facebook group, Maine Homeschool Network, dealing with homeschool prep for the day, and Bible. So I haven't spent as much time as I could on other things, so I just need to readjust my times. We'll see how that goes. What might happen if you did move forward? What might happen if you didn't move forward? Mainly for me, this is the back-end Townsend House stuff and the home decluttering have just sort of been weighing on me for the past year. I haven't dedicated the time for it, and so it's just constantly on my mind. You have to do that, you have to do that, you have to do that, and I still don't prioritize the time for it. So I think that once I actually prioritize the time and start working on it, I will just feel lighter. That black cloud will just be lifted because I'm not going to be constantly thinking about it. Yeah, so those are the keep moving forward questions. And then it has a place for you to write your goals. Again, I have rewritten the same goals. You can write new goals for the quarter. I will keep my goals the same for the entire year, but my focus is just a little bit different. Where I'm putting most of my attention is different than the first quarter. And then you have space for these little action plans where you write out your main goal and then your mini goal and some action steps to go with it. Now, you do not have to use all of these pages, and I did not. So I will go through some of the things that I have written down. For my yearly goal, create a life-giving home, the mini goal is declutter and de-own. And some of the action steps are decluttering room by room. A Bowl Full of Lemons did a challenge at the beginning of the year. She does one every year where she has like a printout so that you go through each space in your home, and she has steps to thoroughly clean and declutter that space. And so I think I'm going to use some of those tasks to work on my decluttering challenge that I'm making up for myself. Separating items to donate and trash. We have a swap shop at in our town because we bring our trash to a place, but there's also a swap shop that you can drop off stuff, and then the rest can go to Goodwill, and then I have to bring donations to the swap shop and to Goodwill. So that is the first mini goal that I have to work on this quarter. And then the next is also create a life-giving home, my yearly goal, and the mini goal is organization. Purchase any new tools to organize the current spaces. Now, I know that I said when you de-own, you don't want to bring new stuff in. But I think I talked about this in my original goals video for 2021, that I know we need some specific things that we have been missing, but I wanted to wait on purchasing them, partly because we weren't completely settled and partly because I didn't know exactly what I would need for the space. Like I said before, in our last house, we had no closets, and now we do have closets, and they are not organized because I don't have the baskets and other types of, I don't know what you need to organize a closet. I don't have any bins that I can like put stuff in. I don't know. But there are a few things that I do need to purchase. And even though I said no frivolous purchases, this is not a frivolous purchase. Like, we need a new hamper because my hamper does not fit in the hallway closet. And that's annoying. So yeah, the hamper is a big issue for me. Anyway, so I need to purchase any new tools to organize the different spaces. I need to incorporate the kids in my cleaning rhythm. I did write out the cleaning cards that I have been talking about for several months, but I don't have times on them because I'm not entirely sure how long it will take to go through that whole process. So that is something that I have to work on as well. And once I have that cleaning card system in place, it'll be easier for me to have the kids help more. So they do help, but it's more of, Emma, can you put away the dishes? And Jack, can you vacuum the kitchen? And can somebody clean the table? And it's never just, these are the things that you do on a specific day, or this is the time that we all do the cleaning game or whatever. So I need to work on that. That is my second mini goal for the quarter. The next yearly goal I have is create a life-giving homeschool. I know that I said I focused on homeschool for the first quarter, and I will still, homeschooling is always going to be a focus for me because it's constantly changing. It's always changing. So my first mini goal is to wrap up 2020, 2021. Some of the action steps, I have a set of wrap-up questions that I created that I go through to evaluate our homeschool year. I will leave a link for that in the description box if you are interested in printing it out. I think you have to download it and then you can print it. And it just has like 10 questions to go through to sort of evaluate how your year went, and helps you to start the planning process. I'm actually going to be doing a video on my wrap-up questions and how I think our whole year did. So if you're interested in that, it will be coming. Not sure when, soon. Write up all of the information for our portfolio. In Maine, we have a couple of different options for year-end assessments. And one of those is to do a teacher review. And so I need to go through and I have a little notebook that I just write down all of the things that we've studied. I will take all of the books that I've listed in my Erin Condren teacher planner that I have read to the kids or that the kids have read, and I will make different lists and print those out so that I have those for the portfolio. Any pictures that I have to pull off of Instagram or of projects that we have done. I go through all of that information and I need to just write it down. Most of it is in my teacher planner already, but I do like to rewrite it and have it sort of in a, I have a notebook, just a little Erin Condren notebook that I have written all of our review stuff in since I had to start doing teacher reviews several years ago when I first had to do a review with Emma. So I need to do that, and then I need to schedule a time with my friend to do the teacher review. She is a Maine certified teacher, and so she does our reviews. It's a fun time to just sort of sit and talk about how the school year went, bounce ideas off of one another, etc. My next yearly goal, create a life-giving homeschool again, and then planning for 2021, 2022. I need to make the lists of what I know that I need. I have started some of that, you know, like the next spelling book, any Sunlight books that I do want to get, some extra things that I have written down over the past few months of things that I think are interesting or that my kids would enjoy, and then figuring out how I'm going to pay for it all. I will look through my wrap-up questions for ideas and to see where I need to make adjustments. The purpose of the wrap-up questions that I talked about before is to know what went well in the last school year and what really needs work. And so I do not tend to jump around a lot in a school year with the resources that we have. I'm very comfortable in the decisions that I make for the curriculum and the books that we use each year. And I am less about box checking. So I can readjust our schedule, but we still use the curriculum for the full year. That's just a personal thing. You can jump around if you want. It does not work for us. So I will make adjustments at the end of the year, and I try, if something is really not working, yes, I will switch it out, but I have not had that experience yet. So thankfully. I don't know. Maybe it's because I spend so much time planning. That's why I don't have that feeling. But yeah, I need to consider the pain points from 2020, 2021. A lot of that was not kid related. I can already tell you, even though I haven't done my wrap-up questions yet, it was more me just feeling not on the ball, and I'm not sure why. I think part of it was because we did have so much time because we weren't in the car getting to a bunch of things during the week. So it was okay if we didn't start school until 10 o'clock, you know, or if the kids wanted to work on a project all afternoon, it wasn't a big deal. Or if they wanted to start with, you know, I don't know. We had a lot more free time. And so we didn't always use the time well, in my opinion. New Erin Condren teacher planner, which I already talked about. And then I want to sort of go through monthly, quarterly themes and rhythms. When my kids, my older two, were really young, I had a monthly theme, you know, like apples in September and pumpkins and Halloween in October and stuff like that. And those are things that I want to get back to for my youngest, which I really haven't implemented with her. She just sort of goes along with whatever we're doing. And but I do want to incorporate some of those fun things that I used to do with my older kids that I just have not done with my youngest, because there's been so much time that has gone by since I've done these little kid years. So that's something that I do want to focus on. And then the last thing that I have as a yearly goal is to grow Townsend House. That's my yearly goal. And my mini goal is blog organization. And that is some of the action steps are revamp my welcome and about page, go through my welcome email sequence, putting my printables together. I have a bunch of printables on my blog that you can sign up for through my email newsletter, all over the place. There's a lot of printables, but I think I'm going to combine them and do like a little package, I think, and just sell them for you know, as a package deal. So I need to do that. I want to re-release my creating margin workshop. It's something that I think is really important, especially even just for myself, to go through that time inventory, to figure out time blocks, to see where I can make efficiencies, and where I am losing time, things that I'm doing instead of what I need to be doing, and just sort of figuring out strategies to make our weeks just better. And that is for homeschooling, and it's also for life in general. A lot of people feel really busy, even this past year. You know, we had a lot of time to sort of take a step back, and there was nothing for a little while. But then I think what's happening now is people are starting to get excited about having more opportunity outside the home again. And I think what's going to happen come fall is that everybody is going to be doing all of the things, and everybody's going to be overwhelmed. So I think that workshop will be helpful. And then start going through my old blog posts. I might start with, you know, a couple of years ago instead of 2011. That might be a better place to start. So I do have other things that I'm planning on working on for this quarter, but these are the main sections of my goals that I wanted to focus on. Yeah. So I am going to wrap up this video. I will have my April goals video up for you soon, so you can see what I'm working on specifically for April and hear how my March went. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.